Hi guys, and welcome back to World's Best Gardens. This week we're going to have a look at Great Dixter. Great Dixter was a garden that was owned by Christopher Lloyd. He kind of pretty much put into it and designed it, along with his parents, his mum Daisy and his dad Nathaniel. He basically thought the best gardens were one that had personal expression and don't give in to what other people want. And I think it's a really good message. It's in 1910 his dad bought it, and Edward Lutyens was the architect that redesigned the new bit there on the left side. You can see it's kind of a little bit different to the right side, and they also designed the garden. Back then it was a formal layout with the gardens, and then later on his mum and dad, Nathaniel and Daisy, redesigned it a little bit to make it more a little bit sort of informal. So Daisy was very much into the plants, and Nathaniel, the dad, was into the structure and the clipped box hedging, clipped yew hedges. So lots of vibrant colour in this garden. It's part of that time where in the early 1900s where Gertrude Jekyll was very much into cottage gardens. She was a famous sort of garden designer back then. This garden wasn't designed by her, but it is influenced by that time, and you can see it's a lot of vibrant colour. The head gardener at the moment, since Christopher died, is Fergus Garrett, and he has continued the theme of this sort of mixed perennial borders and natural look, and very much into the biodiversity. So this is a place in Sussex, and the opening times are 11 a.m. to 5 p.m, open Tuesday to Thursday, but not on Monday. So here's the map of the garden of Great Dixter. You can see that's the main house, and then the gardens are all situated around the house. It's about 450 acres of actual property, but the actual gardens are probably around about a few acres. So this is a garden called the Sunk Garden, and it was designed by Lutyens as a croquet garden, so kind of lawns and box hedging. It was retransformed into a sunk garden, and with a pond and all these beautiful flowers. Look at them, cannas, bright yellows, reds, and of course the idea here is to go for vibrant colour, not the pale pastels, or there are a few in there. It's mainly a lot of brighter colours, and this was a really nice part of the garden. I really enjoyed this part because it's a nice walk around. The paths, as you can see, are quite sort of narrow, and the plants are just bustling over and kind of running riot a little bit. And as you can see down, you can see the house in the distance, but then down the bottom there's the Sunk Garden. It steps down into that, and a nice little octagonal pond with heaps of water lilies in there. We're going to whip round the top of the garden. This is around the paths. You can see there's cannas, lots of insect life. There's lots of bees in this garden. My son was a little bit scared because he's a bit scared of bees, but he managed to go around no problem. And this was a really nice part to the garden, just as you sort of come in. So Christopher Lloyd was a writer, and he was a qualified horticulturist, and he used to write for various magazines, and he was very famous. And he was really a kind of plants person, and he really wanted to sort of test the boundaries a little bit, and he became quite a famous writer and gardener and personality, I guess. So here we have the walled garden, and a little bit of a mosaic there on the ground that we just sort of went straight past. Coming up, lots of plants again spilling over. This here is quite a nice display of pots, and it gets changed quite often with this is the thing with pots. If you've got colour and you can put them in pots, and when they fade or die out, you can replace them with new pots with new colour. Now the paths here are York stone, and they were brought in by Nathaniel's dad, who placed them in there, obviously probably not by himself. I'm sure they had plenty of help. At the moment, I think there's about 5 gardeners that maintain the property, but a lot of part-time help that also comes in. You can imagine a property of this size with all these plants would take a lot to maintain it. So it's not what you'd call a low-maintenance garden, although the way the plants are arranged, just allowing them to naturally spill over and do their thing, you probably don't get a lot of weeds because there's just no space space for the weeds to grow. You can see these paths can be quite narrow, and it sort of zigzags and then sort of splits off into different rooms. I'm pretty sure we didn't get to see all the rooms. There was a former garden with clipped hedges that we didn't really go to, but this one here was sort of heading up now uphill to the sort of orchard area and the high garden. And then a little bit further from the high garden is the vegetable garden, and it looks, I don't know how that's a huge vegetable garden and not a weed in sight. So they obviously come in here and really look after it and maintain it. One of the things with this garden is they're very much into this thing called biodiversity, which means encouraging a lot of biological life into the garden. So when they throw out twigs and cuttings and weeds, they let them just rot down, and they don't burn it or chuck the wet rubbish away. It just encourages all the insects, and that's one of the things here. They said they've got something like over 2,000 plant species here, and also encouraging lots of different butterflies and insects into the garden to give this sort of natural vibe. And you do really feel it when you're walking around this garden. It's hard to see from the video, but it's a very, very full of life garden, very vibrant, and really great to walk around. We were quite lucky with the weather, I have to say, because when we were in England we did get a lot of rubbish weather with a lot of rain, so this was a nice day in Kent that was perfect for walking around this garden. And then we're sort of now just coming to a area, as the gardens has evolved, certain gardens have changed. So this particular garden was put in by Nathaniel's mum, which was Daisy, and then later on, although it was a favourite rose garden, he removed it and placed this exotic garden. So it's quite a unique, sort of challenging garden, I guess, in the middle of England, which is quite cold. Here you've got sort of like a little tropical mix of plants, although Atlantic cedar, I'm not sure about that, but hey, that's the whole thing, is that you're just experimenting with plants and you're going to try different textures and see what works. And if it doesn't work, you get rid of it, or you try something new, or if you like it, keep it. That's the whole thing with gardens, isn't it? You need to basically express yourself in your garden and forget what other people think to a large extent. Obviously, if you come to sell it, then it's, you might have to sort of rethink your choices. But in the meantime, yes, go with your choices. This is now, we're heading back out now, and these are the Meadow gardens. Again, all about encouraging diversity and plant life in there. A few extra snapshots as we go. Definitely recommend this garden to go and have a look at. Great Dixter, a famous garden.